Welcome back to Sailing Zephyr. In the last video we shared where we've been for the past 13 months and revealed that we sold our Beneteau Oceanis 43 and bought a completely different boat in hopes of building a more sustainable life on the water. And while buying the boat was a huge step, the reality is this is just the beginning. Because before we can even think about sailing anywhere, there's a lot of work to do.
Well, it is the next day and I'm already well into the job. So there's two things I'm working on today. Obviously they're not super important as far as getting the boat in the water, making sure it runs well, but I also don't want to be trying to work in a really bad mess. So as I showed you earlier, this boat is green, it's covered in leaves and all kinds of bad insects. For over 3 years, this boat has been sitting. So for anybody that knows, when you leave your boat sitting in the boatyard, it gets gross, especially up here in New Bern where they get a lot of rain and humidity and stuff like that. So the boat is dirty. So I'm a firm believer that a nice clean work site is super important when trying to obviously do your job. So pressure washing, that's what I've been doing. So I got into it right away and I've done half of the boat. I've done the starboard side and I've left the port side because I want to show you guys the difference. It is insane. I've done only half the boat, top sides only, okay? Not the side of the hulls, just top sides. And that's taken me 5 hours using a pressure washer. All right, there you go. She is looking awesome. This is the side I've done. As you can see, it looks amazing. This boat, the deck's fantastic. And this side, ugh. I mean, look at this. You can see the difference here. And this isn't even like a bad spot. Let's go up higher. You can really see that gross. It is absolutely, look at that line. So this boat is, look at that. That's how dirty this side is. And that's how good this side looks. You look down, you can see this side of the boat. Haven't done this side. It's looking incredible. And I gotta say, this boat has not been used, all right? This boat is like a, you know, it's maybe like a 15-year-old boat, sort of at best, 16-year-old boat. And I tell you what, you can definitely see it. Just in like the decks, they're like brand new. Like some of the catamarans I've been on, they use the same non-skid. This looks like it's straight out of the factory. So like, you know, under all that green slime and stuff like that, you couldn't tell. Like I didn't know if it was like super faded, if the gel coat was thin. So I am really, really, really pleased with that. It's it was kind of a nice surprise because I didn't think the decks were going to be in this good a condition. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to pressure washing. I'm gonna get this other side done, and then I'm gonna go in and do the cockpit because the cockpit is so bad. But yeah, all right, guys, we'll see you in a bit.
Buying an older boat always comes with surprises, and the first few days on board have basically been a mix of excitement and trying not to feel overwhelmed. There's something strange about walking onto a boat that's suddenly yours. Everywhere you look, there's another project, another system to understand, another thing to clean, fix, organize, or figure out. But at the same time, it already feels like home in a weird way. And even though this boat is older, we can already see the potential in it.
All right, well, I'm done. It's been 2 massive days of just straight up pressure washing. Catamarans are big. If this was Zephyr, I would have been done easy in a few hours. And I've done it before. It only takes a few hours. But when you got twice as many hulls and a huge bridge deck in the middle, it's a lot of surface area. And I haven't even done the outside of the hulls. So But let me take you around. It has transformed this boat from a slimy, moldy green, leaf covered, goo covered, 3-4 years worth of just crap falling off these trees and from wherever, and nobody gave it a bath once. I reckon it was like thick. Well, let's check it out. I'm pretty proud of myself. I'll tell you what, feels like a real nice boat. Check it out. We got the foredecks. Look at this. Beautiful. The seats, they were black. They've come up nice. Tramp, not too bad. She's definitely seen better days. Looking good. Coach roof, look at that. Absolutely incredible. And we jump up. We got the cockpit roof. Look at that. I can't wait till I slide that across. Got the wind in the hair. This side looking great as well. And the wind generator's working. This was black. It's not perfect yet, but it was absolutely jet black. It's still got like a gray tinge down there. Like I said, we're gonna hit it all with the OSPO. It's really just this back portion of the boat. It's been highly, tread on, and over the years, people coming off and on, and it's just gotten absolutely just black. And plus, this tree, this roof, everything has just been coming onto the back here. And this corner that I'm standing on now, the port aft, I think it doesn't see as much sun, so it really got like super slimy. Cockpit looking awesome. This was probably the worst. That floor was black, looking really good. It still needs, we're gonna hit it with some OSPO in here because everybody keeps stepping on here. That's just some stuff I've pulled out of the engine bay, but this is all looking great. She is looking fantastic. I wanted to see how the batteries were doing. I turned off the shore power. They're doing great. They're holding good power. They're just straight lead acid, so I mean, you would never drop those below 55-60%. Whereas with our lithiums on Zephyr, we run those things way down. Tomorrow is going to be a massive day. Tomorrow's Monday morning. I've got the mechanics that did the recommissioning of the engines. I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier in the day. They actually left all their stuff hooked up. We got a diesel leak. They took parts off. They haven't put them back on. So I need those guys first thing Monday morning to come in and get that all sorted, so then I can start testing the engines properly. So the great thing about sail drives, which I didn't know, is there's no intakes like through a typical through hole like you would with a straight shaft. On Zephyr it's a straight shaft, and we have an intake that the impeller sucks water up through, and Bob's your uncle, right? But with a sail drive, it's exactly like an outboard. So you just get the earmuffs, as my mate was calling them. I was calling them clamshells. You get the earmuffs that you put over either side, connect the hose. It's just like flushing out your outboard, but you turn that on, and then you can run your engines here in the boatyard and test them just like you would an outboard. So that's really cool. I was pretty pretty excited, because normally you have to disconnect the intake and then throw your hose in there so you can ram water up into it. So I'm super stoked about that. So tomorrow is going to be engine day. I need those things to be absolutely perfect. I need to get this boat in the water by Wednesday, and I want to motor it around the corner to Hurricane Boatyard. That's a 40-mile motor, so it's going to be a heck of a good shakedown. All right, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow morning when we dive into these engines. Wish me luck. See you in the morning.
One of the biggest priorities right now is making sure the engines are ready before the boat gets moved to another marina. And James only had about 4 days to get everything ready to get this boat into the water. You can probably see how stressed he's been just trying to get both engines running properly. With older boats, there's always that little voice in the back of your mind wondering, what's about to be discovered next? And the truth is, most of what needed doing didn't even get filmed. The workload, the timeline, and the fact that James was doing all of this on his own meant there simply wasn't time to pick up a camera. Most days turned into long stretches of problem solving, late nights, and just working through issue after issue until things were ready to move forward. Because no matter how many surveys get done or how much preparation happens beforehand, boats always reveal themselves slowly over time. So most of James's time has been spent deep in the engine compartments, checking, fixing, servicing, and trying to get the boat to a point where it was finally ready to splash. And honestly, seeing how much had to be done in such a short space of time feels like a pretty accurate start to this new chapter.
There she is. Oh, massive. All right, guys, so we got a few jobs we got to get done today. It's gonna be a really long, busy day. I've had my breakfast, had my coffee, so I'm rearing to go. I need to make sure this windlass works. Okay, so we're going to make sure that that's going. The chain that's on there, it could be just a solid rusty lump. It might not even stretch out, so we'll have to figure that out. So regarding the engines, I did a bit of investigative work yesterday. So this boatyard said they recommissioned the engines a couple days ago. Well, I'm not so sure they've finished the job. One engine, there's a starter motor missing, and it was on there before. Now I'm assuming it was dead, so they grabbed one off the other side to get the engine started. Now that's fine, but I do want the old starter motor, and I need them to tell me that that's definitely what they did, because when I came through before we bought it, it had 2 starter motors. So I need to find out where that is. They took a couple parts off when they were doing the recommissioning process that they haven't put back on. I want them to do that. They also set up their own fuel bucket to feed directly in because they weren't sure the state of the fuel in the boat. Problem is that fuel, they just left it sitting there. It's still all connected. It's been leaking for I don't know how many days, and the engine bay is just full of diesel. Now I'm not going to clean that up. I want them to clean that up because it's also their bucket of fuel. I want them to detach it because the seller actually paid for this process. So, you know, he's paid for work to be done. So I don't want to interfere with that work. The only thing I did is I quickly disconnected that hose from where they attached to the engine and curled that back in the bucket because it just filled the whole, and there's got to be 6 liters of diesel underneath the engine. So not too happy about that. And they just disconnected a bunch of other stuff. So I want them to put that all back together normally. The great thing is in their recommissioning process, the engines were running and they're running great. So that's good to know. There was one little idle problem with one of them, but I think that's just an idle screw. So we'll look into that. But I want to get those engine bays nice and clean. And then there's some other cleaning we got to do. Gosh, there's just so much stuff. Sails and all that, I'm not too bothered. They will be what they be, and we will deal with those once we get to the other yard. But first and foremost, we are going to windlass and then get inside the boat. Let's go. All right, so I was just thinking, you know, a lot of these catamarans, even modern ones, they have this thing where one of the engines needs to be running for the windlass to operate. I'm not sure if that's the case on this boat or not. You know, it's an older boat. They might have wired it up differently. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure all the windlass breakers are on. And then we'll see if there's power to it. Because I can't run the engines right now. When engines are running. No, those feel disconnected. So it's just... Well, the good thing is that this one it has a manual clutch, so you can raise it down manually. It's the chain. Let's have a look at the chain. Because I'm not terribly worried about whether this works or not, because, well, I mean, I want it to work, don't get me wrong, but it's more that, because I can drop it manually, it's more that I want to know whether this is a giant solid ball. Oh, forgot my glove. Well, the good thing is it's not seized. Often what happens is this chain rusts and it sits. It just turns into a big stiff ball. It's all really pliable. Well, pliable is probably not the right word, but it's not. It sits and it just basically rusts, and it rusts into a ball. So that's actually really good.
One thing James quickly discovered was that the windlass wasn't working properly, which obviously isn't ideal on a boat this size, but compared to everything else, it was pretty low on the priority list. In a worst case situation, the chain can still be manually dropped if needed in a pinch. So right now, the main focus has been getting the engines running properly and making sure the boat is actually ready to move safely.
All right, so windlass is what it is right now.
Poor James, it really has been one thing after another lately. But amongst all the chaos, there's also been some really special news. There's a reason I haven't been there with James through all of this, and that's because we're expecting a new crew member. We're having a baby boy, and we are beyond excited. And somehow the timing of everything still doesn't feel real. The day we officially took over the boat, the very next day, we found out I was pregnant. So it really feels like everything in our lives changed all at once. New boat, new chapter, and now a baby boy joining the crew.
As you can see, the travel lift is behind me, and we're putting the new Zephyr in the water. We're putting the catamaran in the water.
Unfortunately, James just wasn't able to film most of the engine work. There simply wasn't time to pick up a camera. But trust me, he worked non-stop to get to this point. Late nights, problem after problem, and a lot of pressure just trying to get everything ready in time. Next week, James finally gets the boat in the water and the first proper shakedown begins. And with older boats, that's when the problems start creeping up. So we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.